Welcome to the 11 Warriors show for January 10th, 2025. I'm Jason Priestis. It's Chris Lauderback. Chris, it's mid-January. We're still doing preview shows, man.
Yeah, feels good to be alive. It's been a hell of a run so far, and man, not too far from kickoff for another one tonight.
Yeah, speaking of kickoff tonight, weather situation down there is a little dicey. 4 inches of snow, I think they got this week, or something close to it, and some canceled flights on Thursday.
That's like a foot here, right? I mean, that's the Texas equivalent. Might as well be a foot with some ice sprinkled in, I think.
Right, yeah. So we can mock them a little bit for being so bad at this stuff, but they don't have the gear, they don't have the salt, they don't have like plane de-icers, and driving conditions can be brutal. I heard only the last, 3 times in the last 40 years they've had 4 inches or more of snow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
It'd be nice.
So this is like a, once a decade and a half type event for them. But I think, a lot of those have come recently. Huge show today. Ohio State meets Texas tonight in the Cotton Bowl. Winner gets a shot at Notre Dame for the national championship. How cool is that? I'll get into the Buckeyes' historically fast start in the CFP and what they need to do to beat the Longhorns to get into that championship game. Well, let's start with what Ohio State's been able to do in the CFP. I tell my son, I'm like, these 2 games, these are rare, for just everything to go right. And for, 2 games, basically third quarter, you're sitting back and kind of just making jokes, man. You're not nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to happen in September, right? That's like Bowling Green, Western Michigan type stuff. Yeah, to do that against Tennessee and Oregon. I mean, Tennessee was a little more believable, I guess, as you look back on it kind of thing. I know we both picked Ohio State to, win both of the games so far, but gosh, the Oregon, even if you thought Tennessee, okay, yeah, because, they weren't really as good on paper as what an Oregon is. Plus Oregon had beat Ohio State, obviously. But yeah, to see that, and the ass whipping was bigger anyway, right? It was like 34-0 at one point against Oregon. Tennessee had never got that, that lopsided that quickly.
Everything's going right, man. Will Howard's got 2 games in the postseason where his QBR is the highest. Those 2 games are the highest of anyone in the postseason, basically. He's got the 2 top spots. The staff's made some adjustments with the line, saying this is what we have. We saw what happened against Michigan. We got to change it up. Now they're going with gap and pull. Receivers are feasting. The running
counter. I think a lot of counter and running game as well.
Counter.
I mean, a lot of things working well, taking advantage of, a little easier to block someone from the side than straight on. And masking deficiencies like we talked about.
What we thought Chip would be so good at. Running back depth, we talked all year about, having Quinn come to town, and all of a sudden Trey is healthy and fresh for the entire season. And man, how good has he been? 25 touches, 248 yards, 4 touchdowns in those 2 games.
Seems good.
Yeah, I mean, they're like an 8-dimensional offense right now. I mean, you've got the receivers, you got Will doing his things, you got the running backs, the lines blocking. I mean, G. Scott is a weapon right now. Did you ever see, with all due respect to G. Scott, but did you ever think you'd see the day where he's like, oh, you better guard G, he's going to do something on you,
It's really amazing how he's grown up. And they only will feature him maybe once or twice in a game, but he's made the plays when his number is called through the air, the ones that fans notice. But, also, too, a lot of those tight ends, him and Kaczmarek both have played over 30 snaps in both of these playoff games as they've used more 2 tight ends and things like that. And both of them have played really well.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of 12 personnel. Defense is cooking, man. The defensive line is on fire. Jack Sawyer from, I guess we call him late season Jack now, because every year at the end of the season, he just decides to turn into a beast. I wanted to talk about real quick that series in the Rose Bowl where Oregon had scored before the half, and then they scored with their first possession of the third quarter. It's 34-15. You're like, do I need to get nervous? Then they force a quick 3-and-out on Ohio State, and all your worst feelings start to come to mind. McAfee, I don't know if you watched his broadcast after the fact, but he, at that moment in time, he said, are the Bucks about to win? Are the Ducks about to win this game? And first down, Jack Sawyer with a tip on a Gabriel pass incomplete. Second down, he sacks Gabriel. Third down, Cody sacks Gabriel. Then they have a 4th and 23, got kind of a shank of a punt. Buckeyes get it at the 44, not long after they go make it 41-15. It's been the defense. As fun as the offense is playing, man, the linebackers, Cody's playing awesome. The line's been incredible. Safeties are elite. It's fun to be an Ohio State fan right now.
Yeah. It feels like everything is coming together. All these guys that came back are the ones making all these huge contributions as well. Obviously, Jeremiah's on another planet with what he's doing. But, we talked about these seniors being 0 for 12 or, whatever the number is on achieving the goals, and for them to, they haven't done it yet, but they seem to be marching in the right direction here. I definitely buy into everything Day is saying about these guys playing for each other and playing so they can wear the jersey another week kind of thing. You're definitely seeing it because it's all those guys that are just huge contributors on this team, salted in with some downs, some Jeremiah, obviously, but man, these seniors that are, once this run is over, so is their time at Ohio State. Just tons of those guys are contributing at a high level. You mentioned Sawyer. I mean, he has been, JT on the other side has been nuts. And on that third down you were talking about, so Sawyer had the tip on first down, had the sack on second down. On third down, Simon got the sack. That was only after Sawyer had created so much, pressure in there that the quarterback had nowhere else to go but run into Simon in that case. So yeah, it's just been awesome to see all these guys step up that are, that where it really is their last ride.
Yeah, I think a 3-man front too on that third down, because it was like 3rd and 17, and that was like the second play in a row. He basically collapsed the right tackle of Oregon's line. So
they've been getting home a lot without blitz for sure.
Love seeing it, man. You mentioned Jeremiah, like what he's doing right now. I think recently we talked about how he's, for all intent and purposes, he's a sophomore right now. His freshman year's over. He's a sophomore. He's playing like a 5th-year senior though. Like the dude is smart. He's getting jump balls. What's he got? 13 for 290 and 4 touchdowns in 2 games. Like
on 16 targets. I mean, only three targets have not resulted in a catch so far in the playoffs for him.
Yeah, one was a PI against Tennessee that they got the interception on the end zone that should have been called a PI. Like incredible to have him as a weapon when you have all this other weapons on the team, to have him on the outside.
Yeah, well, it's freeing up everything. You saw that crazy catch Emeka had down the middle. Yeah, and just waiting for Tate to get a big one too because of all the traffic that Jeremiah is bringing.
2 very similar catches for Emeka, one against Tennessee and one against Oregon, right down the seam.
Throws. Great throws.
For what you said, Jeremiah opening things up, and like, man, I love the strategy to go after teams with him early and say, we're going to just throw to our dude and good luck. And that's opened everything out. Another guy, man, who feels better than Denzel Burke right now? That first game against Oregon, man, I think 7 for 162, 2 touchdowns given up, just got worst night of his life, probably in terms of football, at least. It's probably safe to say that. Gets back, plays Oregon again in the Rose Bowl, 29 coverage snaps, 0 receptions, just 1 target.
Yeah, didn't even hardly even look at his direction. An awesome bounce back after getting cooked. They say all the great cornerbacks have a short memory. He has definitely said that he has. He's never been short on confidence, and good for him. They're going to need him. They're going to need him hopefully for 2 more games.
Yeah, well, let's get into that game, man. It's a big one tonight. Number 5, Texas, 13-2 versus number 8, Ohio State, 12-2. AT&T Stadium, Jerry World for this one. Bevo in the house, got game day again there. I think game day's been like 25 Ohio State games this year. It's the testament to the kind of run they're on. OSU, I think, is favored by 6 right now, opened at 5.5. So that's held steady for a bit. You like that?
I do. Yeah, I definitely do. I feel like Ohio State, well, we'll get into predictions later, but yeah, -6. It was 6.5, I think, on it's 6 or 6.5. It's still 6.5 on some sites, but yeah, I absolutely like that.
Awesome. Steve Sarkisian, 38-16 in his 4th season at Texas, took over for our good friend Tom Herman. Sark grew up in Torrance, man, not far from Redondo Beach out near LAX. Didn't know this, but walked on to play infielder at baseball at USC. Didn't get any time really. So he's like, I'm going to go over here to El Camino Community College, which is a JUCO, and just kind of ripped it up there. Went on to BYU. Began coaching at El Camino. We need to talk about how cool of a name El Camino. I'm sure California's got cool names. Like for us in the Midwest, so that's like a badass car from the 70s that like doesn't get enough respect. But like everywhere in California's got a cool Spanish name, so probably no big deal to them. Eventually became USC's quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. Got the head job there. Was terminated. Had an issue with some drinking and some kind of spilling over to practice, kind of a nightmare scenario that you don't want to do.
Like in the coach's office, right? Had a fridge in there or something.
Yeah. They had to tell the assistants had to say go home, and they're like, "Why isn't coach at practice?" And it's because had some drinks earlier in the day.
It off.
But then went on the great rehab tour that is Nick Saban's Alabama. Did really well there. Spent a year with Atlanta Falcons, the NFL, then back to Alabama, and then Texas hired him. in 2021, and he went 5-7, 8-5, 12-2. Now he's 13-2, and he's, a win away from playing for a national championship. Very creative offensive guy. We remember him from that game with Bama after the COVID season, and he was just like dialing up whatever he wanted to dial up.
Yeah, I had a little trouble with the Ohio State's defense that night.
Getting tough Borland one-on-one with Devontae. Good call, Bucks.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah, Texas owns a series 2-1. They won the last game the teams played. That was all the way back in 2009, Jim Tressel team. Texas was number 3. Ohio State was number 10. Longhorns won 24-21 in that one. It was the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, again in 2009. Bucks rallied late, scored 15 in the fourth quarter to take a 21-17 lead, and Colt McCoy starts marching down the field and finds Quan Crosby, the 26-yard touchdown with
Anderson
16.
Russell.
Man, I mean, that missed tackle, I still have it. I can picture it perfectly. Like, that was just like, and he played so well. Russell had an interception earlier in that game. He was a really good dude on that team, a really dependable guy. Man, Colt was 41 of 48 in that game for 414. Just constant slinging. On the other side of the ball, this is pretty funny. The Todd Beckman, Terrell. I don't know how Tressel, like, he should be in all the Hall of Fames for winning with some of these things, or maybe in spite of what he did. Because
Except for he brought it on himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe he brought it on himself. Because Todd Beckman and Terrell Pryor in that game that Ohio State almost beat number 3 Texas, they each had 5 completions. Ohio State went 10 of 25 in that game and realistically should have won that game.
Yeah.
So, Tress shooting himself in the foot. 2 epic games in 05 and 06. We remember both of those. The one in the shoe was just awesome, even though Ohio State lost. A tough loss there. And then Bucks got their revenge the following year. That was the start of like all the 7-Eleven memes with Gonzo and Ted Ginn, just always being open. Fun fact, that was the first game of 11 Warriors' life. Yeah. I think it's a season opener, right? Yeah, season opener. Number 1, 2 in Austin. That was the first game that 11 Warriors actually wrote anything about. Don't go back and read it because it's probably hilariously bad. But yeah, man, 19, almost 18 and a half years ago, all of a sudden. Another fun fact, the winner, whenever these two teams play, has played for a national championship within 12 months of playing every time they played.
Interesting.
That's a fun one. And the third one, the teams are going to meet to start the 2025 season. So August 30th, no matter what happens tonight, they're going to be playing in basically, 7.5 months. So, or be here before we know it. How'd they get here? 13-2, but beating on pretty much everyone they played but Georgia. Those 2 losses are to Georgia.
They beat on all of them. I mean, Vandy by 3, a couple 10-point wins.
Some close ones in there.
But I mean, Vandy by 3. All of them were on the road. I think they've been much better at home, and this is not home, but it's certainly not road. But yeah, Vandy by 3, Arkansas by 10, and
but Vandy's are only single-digit win.
Yeah.
And you're right. Vandy and Arkansas were on the road. 0 regular season wins against teams in the final top 25. That's really interesting. And by the metrics, it was the weakest schedule in the SEC. Very nice welcoming gift from Sankey to Texas as they joined.
I guess that's why I pick on the margin of victory on some of those, is because they had a pretty easy schedule, all things considered.
They did. They sure did. Last 4 games have been tough, man. They had A&M. Then they had Georgia in the SEC championship game. They lost that one. Then they beat Clemson in a CFP game, and then beat Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime in a quarterfinal game. And 2 of those games went to OT. And as an Ohio State fan, I love that.
Yeah. Rack up the miles. It's a long season.
What about when they have the ball? What version of Quinn Ewers are we going to get?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think that if you can get pressure on him, that's obviously what you want to do with any quarterback, but I think he has a lot on his shoulders, especially when their run game's not really humming. It makes it so where he's got to do a lot. And if you can get pressure on him, he's got a tendency to force some stuff. He's got at least 1 pick in 4 straight games. I think he's thrown a pick in 9 of the 11 games that he's played. And he had 2 versus Georgia in the SEC title game. So I think that, I think Ohio State's going to be, hopefully they're going to hope they can get pressure without blitzing. But if they can't, I would imagine they still might dial some stuff up to try to force his hand, especially in obvious passing situations. Yeah,
I feel like too, in the Tennessee and especially in the Rose Bowl, there were some interceptions Ohio State could have had. They probably are, watching film, and that Cody could have had a pick 6. I think Caleb Downs could have had one on the sideline pretty easily as well. Mm-hmm. So it'd be nice to get some of those. I think about Quinn, I think the second most or the most highly rated prospect to ever sign with Ohio State to this day. And you look at him now, and the guys in the NFL are like, oh, he's a 3rd or 4th round pick. So still got some tools, still has some good games.
Oh, really good. Really good. It's regressed a little, though, right? I mean, at least statistically. I won't sit here and say I've seen every Texas game this year or last year, but statistically, certainly he was better last year than this year.
Yeah, absolutely was. Struggled a little bit against cover 2 this year. And OSU has been running a lot of that lately, so that could be a factor in the game. What about the defense? Texas, has 290 yards rushing against Clemson. They a little bottled up against Arizona State in the quarterfinals, but can the OSU defense swarm another run game?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a big story in the game, obviously, for one of the reasons we just said. One, if you can get Texas to be one-dimensional, it probably plays in your favor, just like it would with any team. But, it's worked for Ohio State the last couple games as they've, knocked a couple starting running backs out of the game. But, I think so, because I don't know that I think Texas's rushing attack is super lethal. They've had some up and down years, and even against some of these teams, the Georgia and Arizona State, those teams don't have rush defenses as good as Ohio State's, and they pretty much took Texas' run game away. I think if you're an Ohio State fan and you're looking at some of that Texas performance against certain teams and Ohio State's defense against some better rushing attacks they face, you got to feel pretty good about that matchup.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, again, defense. We keep coming back to this. Fun as the offense is playing, Ohio State's defense is special. It's a championship defense. Texas has got the reigning Outland Trophy winner, Kelvin Banks, at left tackle. Got some dudes, man. A little banged up, though. Right tackle Cameron Williams expected to return, but he missed the Arizona State game with a knee injury. You have to wonder how effective he'll be in this game. Do you think Ohio State defensive linemen will get a holding call finally? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do. I think that there's a good chance of it because, one, they've been talking about it all week, and I'm sure that's kind of making the rounds. But I think the other is Texas already, even before whatever you think of Ohio State's own pass rush, Texas already this year was very mid. I think they're in the 80s in sacks allowed per game, a little over 2.25 per game, something like that. And, Ohio State's coming off just having 8 sacks against Oregon. I think Arizona State had 3 against them. I would feel pretty good about that they're probably going to get a hold, but maybe more importantly, they're going to get to the quarterback.
Be nice to see. Last holding call to go Ohio State's way came against Marshall way back in September. That feels like 10 years ago already.
Yeah.
Tony Girdman from Buckeye Huddle with a great nugget earlier in the week said Jack Sawyer blocker has not been called for holding in over 1,660 snaps. So
goes back to 2021, right? Something
it's
like
a long
that.
time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. Tyleek Williams was asked about it at media day down in Dallas and said the following quote: "I think our whole D line gets held every game. I don't know what the refs are saying or what's going on with that, but you turn on the tape and really look at it. We're held almost every play. I don't know if it's because we're Ohio State and they're letting things go or what, but it's been pretty bad. I know y'all see it too. It's every play, almost every game." You know what? He's right.
He is right. And it feels like it's rampant. And I mean, you and I were watching the Notre Dame game last night and saw plenty of instances of that even in that game where there were just some blatant holds that were not called. Yeah,
it seems like they don't want to call it anymore. That's okay. I don't know, 90, 100 characters there. It's a lot of characters in his quote. Otherwise, it'd make a really cool T-shirt. If we can distill that down to maybe 10 characters, we got something. Not just holding, man. OSU ranks 134th in opponent penalties per game at 3.6. Get no calls. You see in other sports like NBA, if you got a blowout, the team doing the blowing out does not get any calls. It happens in ice hockey too. If you're up 5 goals, you're not going to get any calls. Just the Ohio State handicap. Let's call it what it is. Chip Kelly has been phenomenal since the Michigan game. We talked about the counters, the gaps and pulls. Will Howard has looked really damn good too. We've talked about how he has the 2 top highest scores in ESPN's QBR ranking for the entire postseason, all by himself. Was he 75% completion through 2 games, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, but that was a fluke. That was we talked about earlier. Tennessee should have been a holding call against Jeremiah Smith or for the defender on Jeremiah Smith. Can they stay hot is the big question entering this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly reason for optimism to think that they could. It's not like they've been one trick ponies in these two games. They've been able to run it. They've been able to throw it. They ran it, effectively, or thrown it at all three levels with a lot of effectiveness. So yeah, you got to feel. I mean, and Howard obviously has been super dialed in and avoiding those turnovers, and only got one interception in the playoffs so far, and that was that fluke where Jeremiah was definitely interfered with, and that safety did come over and make a hell of a catch, and somehow kept his foot in bounds, but it's never even come down to that. Just his decision making has been amazing, and the other, Ohio State's been able to run the ball a little bit up the middle. They still haven't been able to do much damage, but they've been doing some work on the outside. And they really haven't had to run the quarterback much to move the ball on the ground. So I would imagine you're going to see, what's the next wrinkle going to be kind of thing, right? Because I think, like you said, Sark is definitely known as an offensive play caller. Defensively, let's see what, Texas does to try to stop what they have seen work very well for Ohio State so far. You mentioned a lot of gap scheme blocking, a lot of counter, that type of thing. Well, is that going to work for a third straight game, or will they have to kind of, do something off of that or have an answer for that if Texas has the ability to take it away? So that'll be a big storyline to watch in the game. But right now, the way Chip is cooking, you got to feel good he's going to have an answer.
Yeah, Chip's doing that stuff. We talked about the 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends, two wide receivers. They're running that 43% of the time in the CFP, just 15% during the regular season. That's a look they do on first and second down, too. That's when you most often see that. So paying big dividends. Back to Howard, though, we talked about his QBR rating. In the entire history of the college football playoff, quarterbacks have only had 97.7 or more 8 times ever, all right, in over a decade in any game. This stat I got to point out is came before the Notre Dame Penn State game, but I feel comfortable. Drew Allaire and Riley Leonard did not enter that club last night, but Howard has 2 of those. 8 times in the entire history of the CFP, and he's got 2 of them already. Day had a great quote, I thought, on his growth as a quarterback earlier in the week. Said, quote, "When the first couple of the words of the play come out of your mouth and he could finish it for you, that's when you know." And it's just got to be so satisfying as a coach. Like, all right, this guy's he's thinking now. He's thinking like we're thinking. And, because, there's some guys that he calls a play into or Chip's calling a play into, and they're not finishing it. They're waiting till the end. Like, what is it? What is it? So love seeing that. He also raved about his footwork. And that's like a little thing, you don't notice unless you're really watching film, how much better his footwork's become. But he's moving around the pocket, making the right reads. And to Chip's credit, he's getting the plays he needs to do what he's done and be successful. Jeremiah Smith touched on him earlier. Is there anything Texas can do? I mean, I'm saying that, and they've got the Thorpe winner in their secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, they got some guys. I mean, Jadon Barron, the safety Michael Taft will probably be doubling, I would imagine, some. And, like we were talking earlier in the show, I think Jeremiah's going to get his catches, but will that open up some things for some other guys? Texas has a pass defense that's ranked even higher than Oregon's was, but of course, Ohio State had little trouble with Oregon's. We'll see if that happens. One thing about Texas offense, I think that, they're going to have to watch out for. Howard's certainly talked about it in some of his presser opportunities this week, is that Texas secondary picks the ball off. They lead the country. I think it's like 21 interceptions, something like that this year. So, kind of baiting you into throws. And we've seen, Howard at times, not in a while, but we've seen Howard at times, make some questionable decisions with the football where it wasn't so much it was a bad throw. It was a terrible decision to begin with, right? Like the ball just shouldn't have been thrown. So to me, typically when you see that, it's because you didn't read the coverage correctly, or, something like that is what caused the throw. It wasn't some mechanical thing. So his ability to make sure he's reading the defense and being, it's striking that balance, right? They still want to be aggressive, but you definitely don't want to lose a turnover margin. This is a team that, like I said, 21 picks this year is pretty impressive. So have to balance that, especially you want to get Jeremiah the ball, but you can't force feed if it's not there. But that's, it's one of the reasons they brought Howard in. This is an experienced guy. He's played a lot of football. And he's, obviously built a lot of chemistry with this group of receivers over the course of the season. So you're expecting it's going to pay off tonight against what is a secondary that I definitely respect based on everything we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Texas defensively and your meetings leading up to this game, I'm working on things that make it look like he's open, and then you take it away. That's all I'm putting in right now. You mentioned Barron, Thorpe Winter,
Well,
man.
you already know you can't play Sark. You already know, like with Jeremiah, you already like playing man on him. you know, you're probably going to see a little bit more zone because when Oregon, you know, they got cooked a couple times. So I would imagine you got a greater chance of not reading something properly when it's, you know, when it's a zone coverage that you're missing. So that will be a big piece of it, to your point.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Barron, the Thorpe Winter, man. He's listed at 5'11", which means he's probably 5'10", if we're being real. Like, we know how the media guides work. So, man, leave him one-on-one at your own peril. Like, I think this is like this game is tricky for Texas. And I'm a super confident Ohio State fan talking like very confidently, but like they have the outlet winner at tackle. Like, is he going to lose some money going, you know, is this Jody Barron going to lose some money as a cornerback? Like, cause scouts, the last thing they see is Jeremiah Smith going or Jack Sawyer going against these guys. Like, I don't know. If you're Texas, is there any, this is going to sound crazy, but would you ever consider like a hack a Shaq strategy with Jeremiah because of the way the college football PI foul works?
Right. I mean, those obviously happen when someone feels like they're definitely beat. They're going to grab or do whatever, right? Because you'd rather take the penalty. I just wonder how many opportunities he's going to have one-on-one with anybody in this game tonight, right? I mean, after, you know, what you've seen the last couple weeks, like it's not hyperbole to say that he's the best receiver in college football, maybe the best we've seen in a number of years. So I don't know. I feel like if it's man, he's going to be doubled. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see too many one-on-one snaps happening for him at all this evening. Because you could hurt somebody's draft stock pretty bad if you say, go stick that guy for 30 or 50 snaps. It's not happening.
Cost you a lot of money. The left tackle's still on the clock, though. He might, that outlet may not look so good after the night. Ohio State's got out to fast starts, 21-0 on Tennessee in the first quarter, 17-0, 10 seconds into the second quarter against Oregon. Can they do it again? And, you know, how do they handle it if they can't?
Yeah, I think that's probably the bigger question, right? Can they? I mean, who knows? They can. The way they're playing right now, it's hard to say they can't come out early and score some points. I don't know if you can do another Oregon. Like, I mean, that was just a masterclass, right? Like, how many times can you do that?
Could you imagine, though, if they did the same thing again?
Oh, it'd be insane. I mean, I'm not trying to rule it out, but
Buckeye fans would be the most obnoxious humans on earth. We're like, that's the best team in college football history. Like, we would be straight face saying that to people. Like, a 2-loss team is the best team in college football. Like, crown them. Like, we'd be so obnoxious. It'd be amazing. I'd love it.
To do that 3 in a row, not just do it 3 in a row, but do it against Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas. I mean, that's at least 2 of those 3 I think are really, really legit teams. Tennessee, not bad, but not in the same crust as Oregon and Texas. So could they? Yeah, they absolutely could. I'm more interested in if they don't, what does that look like? And when I say they, it's almost coaches more than players, right? Like what's the strategy look like? Do you I'm not saying I think that they would, but are you can't go back to play not to lose kind of situation, right? Like how do you still be aggressive without being crazy? It's probably a little easier to call plays when you're up 21-0, right? One, because everything's working, but 2, you got a cushion in case it doesn't work kind of thing. So yeah, that will be interesting because they really will not have played a close game if something like that does happen since the end of November. So it'll be a good 6 weeks since they have entertained any type of contest like that. So yeah, I'm more interested to see like, hey, if they, fall behind 7-0 or, because the other thing is that with Sark, I've read a lot of stuff this week, and I think a lot of people in the, certainly in college football respect him as a play caller, game planner, that type of thing. I don't know what the stats are, but I think they've been pretty good. Like when they're running their scripted drives, maybe those first or second drives of the game kind of thing. Be interesting to see how Ohio State's defense matches up with them. Can they hold them no points or field goal or something like that across that first quarter? If Ohio State maybe isn't lighting it up on offense, to still hold Texas down where they're probably at their best offensively, that will be an interesting little game within the game to watch tomorrow relative to fast starts.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great sign, too, if they can do that, because you're right. He's been so much better scripted than when he's had to adjust and kind of go with the flow of the game. And if Ohio State can come out there and limit them or hold them, force punts, when they're running the scripted plays to start the game and, maybe out of halftime, that's a great sign. How banged up is Texas? Like, we talked about Cam Williams, the right tackle, getting back from a knee injury. Is he 100%? Like, where's he? Is it 90, 95? they played, 4 straight physical games, 2 went to overtime, a lot of snaps on that side over there. And, at least against Tennessee, man, Ohio State starters didn't, played 60% of a game.
Yeah.
They were probably a little bit longer against Oregon. I don't know if that was some revenge factor stuff from beating them in the regular season or what, but, backup still got in that game. So one team has played a lot more snaps. They got to be a little more tender.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think I'm probably most interested to see how that plays out at right tackle because, they obviously didn't sit him out last week because, well, we think we can beat Arizona State without him. Like that was a close game. So they clearly he was not ready to play. So I think that will be huge, especially the way Ohio State, the defensive ends have performed so far in this season, but certainly in the playoffs. I guess thinking about injury or worn down or fatigue or any of that kind of stuff, I'm mostly looking at right tackle and seeing how that unfolds early.
Yeah, me too. The rare game maybe where Ohio State has a kicker advantage. Is that you buying that?
Yeah, I mean, so far, fielding was great last week. That it had a 46-yarder and a 36-yarder. And this season, for all the talk about fielding, obviously the 2 misses at Michigan were huge, but this season on those deeper kicks, he's 6 of 7 from 40 to 49 yards. So he's, it hasn't been all bad. It's just the 2 of those 4 misses came in the game that matters most to many fans. And at that time, obviously not knowing what is to come for Ohio State, that was really crushing to miss 2 in a game that you lose by 3. But you're as good as your last kick, just like a corner's as good as their last game kind of thing. So Fielding's confidence has to be brimming after it didn't like he hit 2 chip shots. 36, okay, but a 46-yarder is a real kick.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was nice to get him those opportunities in games where there
absolutely
wasn't a ton of pressure. You can just kind of go out there and do it. Bert Auburn for Texas kicker was second team Phil Steele preseason All-American, just 16 to 25 this year. May not even be the kicker tonight. I think we're going to have to see what shakes out because I did think Sark was talking about having a kicking battle going into a semifinal game, which always
still hard to believe. This. Auburn getting a little bit in his head maybe, but he was a legit, it wasn't like just all of a sudden, or he's been bad forever kind of thing. He was a preseason All-American in some different publications. So this is a guy that, it's been around. He may look like Carrot Top, but I think he's got pretty good pedigree.
Best hair in college football or worst hair in college football? Where you at?
I'll go worst.
Worst? That's not a bad choice. Going to be a home game, probably a little bit for Texas, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Based on, 3-hour drive from their campus, I think it is. And obviously the weather over the last couple of days wasn't great. Sounded like DFW maybe even were suspending some flights, not letting some planes land for a little bit. I know they were out there like actually plowing and de-icing the runway, not just the planes, but the actual runway. So, and you mentioned the 4 inches and how that's a once in a 10-year event or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what that does at travel. Plus, I think, Ohio State fans are pretty optimistic. Whether it comes back to bite anybody in the butt, I guess we'll see. But potentially there's still one more game to travel to. So how many people are like, hey, let me gamble and try to see if I can get past one more week and go to a national championship game. Not every fan out there can go to multiple of these.
Yeah, just hope fans show up for Ohio State and that, maybe some of those fans thinking of driving from Austin are like, oh, no, I can't drive in the snow. And here we are because we'll take that. Will Howard will be motivated, man. He's, I think, 0-4 in his career against Texas, 0-3 as a starter, but 0-4 overall when he was at K-State. And he spoke about that this week, so he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, he's dialed in for sure. I don't think he'll be trying to do too much because of that, but yeah, he's been around. He knows the game. He knows historical, pieces about the game, about his career, that type of thing. This is for a bunch of different reasons, that included. He obviously wants to lead his team to a W tonight.
For sure. How do you see it playing out, man? I think, what'd you say, 6.5 is where the line's at right now. What do you see taking place tonight?
Yeah, I turned in 31-18. I do think that, Again, I don't want to say I'll be surprised because of the way Ohio State's played, but I don't know. I don't know how long you can keep going, just completely stomping people right from the jump. It could happen, but I don't know. I kind of see a scenario where Ohio State's never in deep trouble or anything like that, but that it's tighter for a while. These other games, like, they've been fun, but good Lord, I don't want to cloud reality too much. So, maybe a little tight for a half, and then Ohio State pulling away. I turned in 31-18, I think is what I ended up with. So still a 2-score, comfortable 2-score win.
Yeah, I was at 31-20 myself. I'm thinking similarly. It's maybe Ohio State's not going to have to come back or anything. It's a game where you're probably never super worried, and teams trading blows early, then they kind of pull away late.
That's where I'm at, and then pull away.
Again, man, but think about, if they do roll another perfect game somehow, and they do come out and just stomp the hell out of Texas, we're going to be the worst. Like, we're going to not be allowed on the internet. Like, Ohio State fans are going to be out of control. Like, people will just personally, I don't can you imagine if they rolled a perfect game and drubbed Texas, and then you're getting ready to play Notre Dame? There'd be Ohio State fans laying so much money on that game with silly props moving in different directions. Selling points to the book. I don't need points. I need you to have points, right? There'd be
what did you say? I feel like what was the spread? If it was
early spread 7.5. If Ohio State played Notre Dame, 2.5 for Texas over Notre Dame.
Quickly.
Buckeye fans driving that up. Yeah,
minimum 9.5 in a heartbeat, probably 10.5.
Yeah, so I'm with you, man. I think it's tight for a little bit. Ohio State pulls away, wins by a couple of scores, but man, I'm not going to rule it out, man. Could be our third straight perfect game.
I won't be surprised. I'm more or less honestly playing the law of averages of man, can you just play? And fans will want to jump on Ryan Day in a heartbeat if they don't score, a drive or if they fall behind 7-0 or something like that. But it's just Texas has scholarship guys too. At some point, it's hard to just completely steamroll teams. You're in the freaking playoffs, for God's sakes. It's hard to keep that up.
Every team's a good team. I had a buddy texting me during the Oregon game, and it was 34-0. I was like, "Why are we playing zone?" Dude, it's 34-point lead, man. Don't let them have a touchdown in 8 seconds when you can make them work up and down the field to get back in it.
It goes back to what you said. I almost hate to bring it up because of who quoted it, but you mentioned how the only smart thing or the only cool thing Harbaugh ever said in his life was that the head coach's job is to be the guardian of the W.
Yeah.
And that's all that was. They were trading points for minutes. Because, that first drive of the third quarter that made it 34-15, that was a 7.5-minute drive. Yeah. Take that all day long. Now, three and out afterward obviously sucked or whatever, but still, you're talking late third quarter at that point. So, being the guardian of the W is what mattered. What mattered most in that situation.
And it'll be tonight for both coaches if they get an opportunity, because, like you said, it's the college football semifinals, man. College football playoff semifinals. Your job is to win the game, and if you can win with style points, great. But if not, just win the game. I mean, Notre Dame, Penn State last night. I mean, do you think Notre Dame cares about the style of that game at all?
Exactly. Well, the Georgia game was the same thing. I mean, it was that wasn't a beauty contest, threw for 88 yards or whatever the hell it was, but they won.
Alumni of note at Texas, man. A whole bunch of entertainers, man. Obviously, a lot of schools have athletes. Any big school's gonna have a lot of athletes, but way more entertainers than we're used to seeing from these schools. We've done this all year, Owen Wilson, Janis Joplin, Wes Anderson, John Hamm, Farrah Fawcett, Glenn Powell, our dude Rip Torn. You might remember him on Hollywood Squares. He'd always be wearing a scarf and have the
it's old school.
Oh yeah, he was a personality, man. But the one we want to focus on is Matthew McConaughey, who we have a lot of us our age have a affectionate place in our heart for, because he burst onto the scene as Wooderson in Dazed and Confused. And we're like, who's this dude? What kind of role is that? He's the quote minister of culture for Texas. Gave himself that title. He was in discussions for their new basketball building, the Moody Center. Wanted to blend Austin with UT's identity, and he's probably using a bunch of words that are half baked into some Buddhism and some other stuff sprinkled in there. But he got involved, man. He designed suites and what the bar placements look like. And have you seen that place, Moody Center? It's I guess 2.5 years old. How cool is it? It looks like a beautiful building, and then max capacity of about 11K for hoops games. What a great idea!
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we do that here?
Novel concept. No, you want to have enough concerts in it, I guess.
Yep. Involved with the school in a massive way, obviously. Teaches a script to screen course down there. And, super fan. You see him on the sidelines wearing those dumb jackets. And I like the guy, but I'm not going to like him tonight. I just can't. But in general, I do like the guy. But he wears his emotions on his sleeves. If Texas is getting hurt or if they're winning, camera will be on him and he will be echoing what's happening on the field. What's your favorite McConaughey movie other than Dazed and Confused?
Oh man, I don't know if I would say movie, but I think True Detective would be my other thing.
Oh, that's a good call.
When True Detective was actually good. When him and I think that I would say that was my second favorite thing that he was in. What do you got?
with him and Woody Harrelson. Yeah, that first season was an absolute banger. Yeah. Interstellar's pretty good. Dallas Buyers Club's pretty good. Like, I'm proud of the guy. Like,
Club's really good. That'd probably be third for me.
He started out, like playing this total stoner, hitting on high school girls, the famous quote that's what I love about these high school girls. I get older and they say the same age. You're like, man, party at the Moon Tower, that guy. And now he's like, a legit serious actor. So good for him. Hope he has a bad night tonight, but otherwise happy for him. If the Bucks win, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we got to touch on it. It'll be Notre Dame on the 20th in Atlanta. Again, early lines that popped out after the game last night was, I think Ohio State -7.5 against Notre Dame, and then Texas -2.5 against Notre Dame. So the winner of this game tonight will be favored in the national championship. But what are your thoughts, I guess, if Ohio State were to be fortunate enough to win against Texas?
I would feel pretty darn confident. I would feel more confident about that game than I do this game tonight. And I know that much. I mean, the spread already kind of, says that based on what you said, the 7.5, only a point different, but I guarantee you that would go up pretty quickly. There's a lot of Notre Dame fans that would be betting money on their team, but even despite that, the Sharps would push that up probably. Right. Yeah, I would feel pretty good. I mean, just Notre Dame's lack of explosiveness on offense, for one, would make me feel pretty good because you just, not likely you're going to give up a touchdown drive that's one play 70 yards kind of deal. Those are just almost like turnovers kind of thing, right? So when you think about that methodical, I'm sure Marcus Freeman, all due respect to him, he would have a really good trestle ball game plan to try to mask his weaknesses and shorten the game, keep away
That's a good call out
from Ohio State's offense. Like, he would do all of those things to where I don't know what the fictitious over would be right now, but I would probably give that some thought. But as far as escaping with a win, I feel like, assuming no injuries, whatever, I would feel more confident Ohio State beating Notre Dame than I do them beating Texas.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the games. If this happens, if Ohio State, beats Texas tonight and they play Notre Dame, like, you rank the games and how much you were worried about going in. Like, this is stuff that people are going to clip and roast us if it goes the other way. But, like, is Notre Dame like the fourth most worried you were? I mean, you were worried about 3 other games in the CFP run ahead of Notre Dame. Because Tennessee was a weird spot coming back from that Michigan loss. Yeah. Oregon was undefeated, number 1. Texas is loaded. Like, I mean, like,
probably third. Tennessee, I was probably it'd probably be number 4. Okay. Notre Dame 3, Texas 2, Oregon 1.
Yeah, I would feel good about that matchup. I love that it's Notre Dame too, because although it'd be cool to have 2 Big Ten teams in there because we could talk mad trash to SEC bros, but like, it's another pelt to have on the wall, from this season. It's one of the most storied programs in college football history.
Yeah. And the storylines with Marcus and
Marcus, that Marcus storyline's amazing. Yeah. I mean, just so
props to him, by the way, the first black head coach, either him or Franklin were going to get there. That's pretty cool as well to be in the championship game.
That is, man. You remember when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame? He said, quote, "I want to be in an environment where I have the resources to win a national championship." This is April 2022, so about 3 years ago almost. So he left Notre Dame, wanted the resources, wanted to be in an environment where he could win a national championship. Here, Marcus Freeman's got his team playing for it all, and Kelly's never made a CFP game. So everyone hates Brian Kelly. Don't feel bad for roasting him. Literally, even LSU fans hate Brian Kelly. Like, I don't think there's anyone that likes the guy. Notre Dame fans hate him the most. And then LSU fans might hate him a little bit, but everyone hates Brian Kelly. Yeah, all right, folks, it's time for our favorite part of the show. What's your price? We dive into the things in life we could do for the right price. We're talking about the fun, harmless stuff that doesn't hurt anyone or break the law, like driving 10 miles an hour into the speed limit for an entire year, or entering a professional slap contest. And today, we're going to get into something that's like slap contest adjacent. And I'm not a big rodeo guy, but Ohio State's playing Texas. There's cowboy hats. I assume the belt buckles and all this stuff. So I assume they got to have rodeos, right? It's got to be a thing you do down there. You like go to the rodeo, I'm guessing. Didn't do my research. Yeah. Apologize for that.
Well, you're wearing boots if you're not going
right.
Rodeo.
Yeah. What's your price, Chris, to serve as a rodeo clown for one day. Those guys, that have to pop in and out of barrels, and you got the mad ass cow or steer. I guess it's a bull, right? You got the mad ass bull running around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got his balls tied, chasing you around. You're wearing paint on your face. Maybe get some crash course training that morning on how to not get stabbed by the horns. But what's your price to agree to do that for a show?
Do they wear any padding or anything? Do they wear?
No, they might have some stealth padding. You're gonna get some of those football rib pads things,
Yeah, I need all that.
Yeah,
I don't think they wear helmets though, right?
No, and I think
heads exposed.
It's probably less about getting gored and more about this thing just flipping you 25 feet up in the air.
Yeah. Are we both doing it, or is just me and that's
one of us
experienced clowns? I feel like I could outrun you. If we were doing it, my price.
Oh no way! First of all, no way. Second of all, is it a 2-clown thing? I don't know. Is it 1 clown or 2 clowns? They have the backup clown.
They have a bunch of clowns out there.
You got if you got multiple clowns, then your price is going to be lower, right?
Are we saying it's a single clown rodeo? I feel like there's probably more than one.
Let's settle on 2. For the purposes
but it's
of
not
this
each other. It's some other random professional rodeo clown.
It's Usain Bolt. You're not outrunning anyone.
And you say for a day. Is that
that's one show? What is it, an hour show or whatever?
I don't know. Yeah, I
probably go out there 6 times during a show.
I know that.
Yeah. You're not doing the matinee and the night show.
I mean, that's what they do. Those goofy,
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're definitely doing 2 or 3 shows a day when they roll into town. So you're in the clown stuff. You got someone theoretically faster than you out there as the second clown. So, I feel like you can pull it off.
Yeah.
Don't wear red pants, I guess. Do they still, is that an urban myth? The bulls really chase after red stuff? You want to make sure you're wearing neutral black or something and no red?
Your job as the clown is when you see a bullfighter, when you see the rodeo dude in cowboy in distress, you're supposed to distract that thing, right?
Yeah.
But they got some barrels and stuff out there, so I think it's just to the degree I'm willing to distract that thing, if the cowboy dies, whatever, I'm only here for a day. So
you we're going to add this wrinkle. You have to
doing what's your price.
You have to do your job. We're going to add that small wrinkle. You have to do a show and you have to do your job.
I just got there and sit in that barrel the whole time.
Got a white flag.
Yeah, give me my check.
So I don't think it'd be a long shot to probably die. You might get hurt, might break some ribs, might break a leg, might get a concussion, might break an arm.
We've generally said though, any physical harm, your medical bills you just have to assume those are paid for. Yeah. What's your price?
Magic wand to pay for those.
Yeah. But it's still, just the pain and suffering, the embarrassment, any of those kinds of things. Man, one rodeo show, it's probably an hour. 10, 15, 10.
You talking 10K?
Yeah, I don't see him getting ran over that much.
Are you factoring in a really bad injury at our age where we could have to have a cane the rest of our life? Because that's in play. That's in play.
I think you're overestimating the degree of which I'm getting close to it.
Do clowns? I feel like we need
Are there rocks out there? Can you throw rocks at it?
Throw a rock at one of these bulls? That's a death warrant.
If I'm trying to distract if I'm trying to do my job, you said we have to do our job, which is to distract it when the cowboy's on the ground. Could I do that from afar if I'm throwing stuff at it?
In the barrel throwing rocks?
Pretty much.
I'm gonna say, man, I'm in the 10 spot. I think I can do it for 10.
Yeah.
And I think I could have a good day. Those are famous last words, but I think I could have a good day in there. I think I can be elusive, man. I do. Because, there's only one bull out there at a time, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's not 5 bulls. Yeah. So it's not they're running the bulls or anything crazy to that. So you should know where it is at all times. You could probably make some noises and jump around, do some exercise stuff on the other side of the ring to kind of distract it. Maybe get within 50 feet if you have to, the guy's in real trouble, but
mm-hmm. I think I would do it for 10.
10?
Mm-hmm. That's probably the number.
I wonder if there's
1 hour. Lots of padding. Lots
what
of
what kind of release would you have to sign to do this? the rodeo's here, you can't sue.
Man, I don't know. If you're going to be a rodeo clown, I would imagine you're not too tough to outsmart. I wonder if, they probably just sign a waiver and.
How does one, is that like a full-time job? Is that, you think these guys have that? They tour
Like they
and
travel with them?
Yeah.
Probably.
This guy's
Probably
he's got like a
circuit.
backpack. It's got all his makeup in there. And he's like, he knows what the good white makeup is and the good red makeup. And that's just like his thing, huh?
Do you graduate to that from being like a carny?
You might have you might have to like be like the clown squire at first, like get his stuff ready for him until you're the head clown yourself. I don't know, man. This is opening up a lot of questions we're going to have to dig into on a later date, but I think 10, but like, oh man, imagine just like getting flipped though and coming out and just shattering
Gored
your
is the
leg.
thing. Like, or we aren't going to get gored by those. We're not doing bullfights, but taking just a blunt, getting flipped up would be no good. You probably break a leg, but man, taking a blunt, like skull, like a steer skull to the chest or face.
Yeah.
That would be bad. Like a broken leg is one thing. Having your whole face deformed because you got headbutted by one of these things would be another.
All right, 10K.
Poked out of the barrel just
Dude, I'm starting to rethink. I might have to add some money to this. Like, I'm like not a guy. I like to try things. Like, I'm a roller coaster guy. I know I would jump out of a plane if I had the opportunity, and parachute or skydive or whatever. I would do that. But like at our age, man, a real life like 800-pound bull running around.
Yeah, it'd be trouble.
Yeah, it would be. Well, it's all hypothetical, but 10K. Okay, we'll see if maybe someone's very generous and has 20K and wants to make this happen. Let us know. We'll get in the ring. Had a blast, man. Happy birthday to Marcus Freeman today. And what a birthday that dude's having, man. About to play for the national championship.
Cool.
Bucks against Texas tonight, 7:30, ESPN. As always, thanks for joining us. Take care of each other. Be good to each other. Go Bucks.